on section 9.7, solving linear and nonlinear systems. So this is just like when you had two lines and you wanted to solve a system involving two lines. You're going to figure out where they intersect. So it's the same concept for linear and nonlinear. Okay, so you have three different things that could happen when you have a conic section and a line. You could have something like this where they don't intersect at all, so you're going to have no solution. If this is the case, then after you try to solve it, you're going to wind up with something that's not true, like 0 equals 2, or, you're going to not have any variables, and the statement that you have left is not going to be true. Okay, another thing you could have is something like this, where the line just touches the conic section in one spot. So you'd have one solution. And the third scenario that you could have is where the line just goes straight through the conic section and you have 2 points of intersection. You don't really know what you're going to get until you solve for one of the variables, and then you see what's going to happen. Okay, so let's look at the first one. This one you have a conic section and a line, and we're going to do one after this where there are 2 conic sections, and you do solve them differently. When you have a conic section and a line, you're going to use substitution. To solve for the variable. So what we're going to do is we're going to solve for x in this line. You can solve for either one, but it's just x is the easiest one to get. So I'm going to subtract 3 and move the x over to the other side, and I get 4y minus 3 as a value. Okay, so I'm going to take this value for x and substitute it into the conic section. You always want to substitute the linear problem into the conic section problem. So I need to square the binomial, 4y minus 3. That means I'm going to have to FOIL it. So I'm going to get 16y squared, and when I add my middle terms together, it's going to wind up being negative 24y plus 9 minus 4y squared equals 9. Okay, so I have a quadratic, so that means I want to set it equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract the 9 over, and when I do that, it's just going to add to be 0. So those add out. 16y squared minus 4y squared, that's going to be 12y squared. Okay, so now I can factor. I can have a common factor of 12y that I'm going to take out. And I have y minus 2. Whoops, I forgot my y. Y minus 2 in parentheses. And I'm going to set each factor equal to 0. 12y equals 0 and y minus 2 equals 0. So I have 2 values for y, 0 and 2. So I'm going to have 2 points of intersection on this one. So when you solve for your other variable, your x, I'm going to substitute these values for y back into the line. Okay, don't put it in the quadratic, put it back into the line. So when y is 0, I have y minus 3 equals x. That's going to give us 1 point, negative 3, 0. So that's one answer. And then when y is 2, 4 times 2 minus 3 equals x. So I'm going to have 8 minus 3, which is 5. That's my other point, 5, 2. And if you're not using x and y, you always write your points in alphabetical order. Any questions?
Alphabetical order?
Yeah, x, y, g, h, s, t. If they're not using x, y, because x, y, you already know how to order that. But that's how they usually set it up. It's just in alphabetical order. Okay, so the next one I would like to do, I want to do 2 conic sections, but they don't have an example on your paper, so you just need to add this somewhere. On the back would be good, yeah. So when you have 2 conic sections, there are 5 possibilities for your solutions. And these are illustrated on page 641 in your book. I'll draw them up here real quick, but you might find a better picture on 641 in your book. Okay, so the first possibility is if you don't have any solution. So, something like this, where you have 2 conic sections, they just don't intersect. Then you could have 2 conic sections where they just touch in one spot. Okay, you could have 2 conic sections where they have 2 points of intersection. You could have 2 conic sections where they have 3 points of intersection. So you have 1, 2, 3. Or you could have 2 conic sections that intersect 4 times. Something like that. Okay, so let's do an example. Oops. We're given a circle and a hyperbola. So when you have 2 conic sections, you want to use elimination to solve. You can see that I can easily get rid of the x squareds because one of them is positive and the other one's negative. So I'm going to reorder this second equation so that the x is first. So it'll line up with my first equation, and I'm going to add them together. So the x's are going to add to be 0, and I have 2y squared equals, and that should be 72. So now I can use the square root property because I have a squared variable and it's equal to a number. I need to get rid of that 2 first, though. That's in front of the y squared, so I'm going to divide both sides by 2. Y squared equals 36, and then take the square root. When you take the square root, you need to remember to put that plus or minus. You are going to have 2 values for y there. Okay, so don't forget that. That's going to cause you to miss some answers if you forget to put the plus or minus. So now to get the other value, the x value, I'm going to substitute this y back up into either one of the problems. It doesn't matter which one. You're going to get the same answer. Okay, so I'll just do the top one since the x and y's are both positive. So you got x squared, and this is when y is positive 6. Okay, so x squared plus 36 equals 45. X squared is 9. So x is going to be plus or minus 3 when you take the square root of that. So you get 2 points when y is positive 6. You're going to have positive 3, 6, and negative 3, 6. Now when y is negative 6, I'm going to get x squared plus negative 6 squared equals 45. So it's going to wind up being the same thing, right? Because that's going to be positive 36. You're going to subtract it over. So x squared is going to equal 9. X is going to be plus or minus 3. The only difference is that now your y value is a negative 6. It's not positive. So you get 2 more points. 3 negative 6 and negative 3 negative 6. So you're going to get 4 total on this one.